War. I know what it's like. Not because I've fought in one or seen one up close, but because I have an amazing imagination, and I spend a lot of time pretending to be a victim. And while the fog and friction of war can cause confusion, there's one thing I'm absolutely certain about after the last minute of sitting on the Capitol lawn looking for ways to make foreign conflicts about myself. And it's this. War really is as bad as they say. Which is a bummer, because some people are saying this is the closest we've ever been to World War III.
World War III fears are growing, and governments are now issuing pamphlets on how to survive it.
This could even end up in a World War III.
And last Friday, the term World War III was the highest search phrase on Google.
The Bulletin of Atomic Scientists' Doomsday Clock has now been moved to 89 seconds till midnight, which is its closest ever time to global catastrophe. Amazon purchases for things like gas masks and survival kits have spiked. The youths have already begun planning their outfits for combat. And yes, there have been calls for peace this year, but they've mostly been ineffective. Imagine you've been drafted to fight in World War III.
Okay.
On behalf of Iran. Okay? You're in the field, about to attack a group of Americans, and this plays over the radio.
Hey Iran, please don't bomb us, and by us, I mean the U.S. Over and out.
Moved by the power of song, you say, wait, what are we doing? You put your weapons down and you go home. Realistic scenario or unrealistic scenario?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with unrealistic on that one.
Okay. But do you think there's any chance that song...
No.
So if songs of peace are off the table and World War III does arrive, what should we expect? Here's a little thought experiment. Imagine World War II happened today. So you have Hitler, Stalin, and Mussolini nuclearly proliferated, posting deepfakes of themselves on the internet. The only good thing about a situation like that would be that Hitler would probably have had a conversation like this. Mein Führer? Heil Hitler? Hitler? Yes. Hitler... Yeah. Hey, Hitler. Yeah, could we just have a quick chat? Speak. So, we just developed a new bioweapon. It's crazy. Yeah, whatever it is fine. Just do it. Great. So basically, at the push of a button, we can have everybody killed who doesn't have blonde hair, blue eyes, and Germanic heritage. Would you like us to activate the weapon? Maybe in a couple weeks or something. We'll talk about it again. I mean, it's extremely accurate. There will be no mistakes. I don't know. It's hard to even imagine what World War III would look like. So I brought in a few experts to help me understand. Okay, it seems to me that the landscape of war has changed since World War II.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree with that.
It was one thing when we were hearing, Kim Jong-un is so evolved, his butthole is sealed up, and he's stopped pooping completely. And it's another when you're actually seeing photographs of his flap of skin that's sealed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd be careful about some of the things you talked about there. There might be some misinformation kind of baked in.
Of course. Well, then how do you think war has changed?
Right now, the warfighting landscape is very dynamic. We have a lot of technology that's developing at an ever-accelerating pace, like drones and hypersonics. The effects of cyber actions are tremendous. We have whole new domains that are starting to become important, like the space domain. We have nuclear proliferation now. A lot more people have nukes. There's a lot more of them. Another part is they're a lot more powerful now. That's probably pretty important as well.
I did also hear that nuclear weapons technology was sold on the black market.
That's true.
For example, around the turn of the century, you had A.Q. Khan, who was the father of Pakistan's nuclear program, got on the black market, said, hey, trying to sell some stuff, let me know who's interested. He gets in touch with Iran, Libya, North Korea. They're like, what do you got? We're super interested. And he said, I've got all sorts of stuff. I've got uranium enrichment centrifuge. I've got uranium hexafluoride gas. I've got blueprints for how to build a nuclear bomb in case you want to Phineas and Ferb it in your backyard. Let me know what you want. I'll provide, you know, we just don't do shipping, so you gotta come get it yourself. That was a dramatization. I actually don't know how the conversation went down. I don't know who got in touch with whom, but this really did happen. AQCon was facilitating sales of nuclear weapons tech. The point is, 9 countries now have nuclear weapons. And while most nation states have good reasons not to use those weapons,
major powers act rationally. And especially major powers that have some sort of a political process of accountability, the leaders will feel like they need popular support.
There are other groups who might be considered less rational.
You have to watch out for authoritarian, irrational regimes such as North Korea.
We do absolutely need to be concerned about keeping these weapons out of the hands of the wrong people, and in general trying to limit their proliferation.
Let's talk cyber attacks.
Cyber. Okay.
Personally, I know that it's easier than ever to spread convincing misinformation. I've been doing it. So I have just a lot of personal experience there. Are you worried about misinformation and the information war?
Oh yeah, I mean, deception is a fundamental part of warfare. We are always trying to deceive what the other side is perceiving about our situation, and we're trying to navigate our way around their deception tactics. Whether it's something small, like the number of tanks and airplanes we have, or if it's something a little more abstract, like our willingness and desire to, follow through on the action that we started.
Okay, say we all woke up tomorrow morning and our phone backgrounds had been changed to a picture of a gooch or something else less inappropriate. I don't mean to always do inappropriate examples, it's just like what comes to mind for me. It's just how I was born. It's a condition, so.
Okay.
But then that would be something like a cyber attack.
Yeah, I mean, technically that probably would be a cyber attack, but let me give you a real world example. In 2015, Russia executed a cyber attack on Ukraine, and a couple 100,000 people lost electricity because the attack took down part of the electrical grid.
People are so concerned about deep fakes, but do you have any real examples of any time that's been used in the world?
Yeah, sure. There was actually a case where a Ukrainian official was meeting with a US political figure, and the entire thing was a deep fake. So it wasn't actually a Ukrainian official, but it was a deep fake of that official to try and get information from the United States.
Wow.
Yeah.
We can also imagine a cyber attack where, you know how on your phone you have the ability to change autocorrect? So every time you try to type I love, it switches to I hate, for example.
Okay.
You can imagine absolute chaos ensuing. How's work going? You know, I just love working with special needs children. What? No. I'm saying I love special needs children. Okay. I don't even know who she is anymore. No. I don't want to be giving anybody ideas, world leaders ideas, but I can think of a lot of examples that I think would be really interesting. Just on a personal level. Something that I don't understand at all is space war. Like what?
Well, one thing that space folks will say a lot is space is the ultimate high ground. So there's a lot of things that can be done from space that still have effects down here in the terrestrial component. So communication is the most fundamental example. So a lot of the ways that we communicate is actually going through space. You also have things like navigation and timing. So your GPS constellation is an example.
But how is that a war? Like, who cares?
It's a way to degrade the capability of everything else inside your military that does rely on things like timing, navigation, communications. There's also imagery and intelligence that you can gather from space.
Okay.
So Golden Dome, you might have heard of this one. This is this new program that the US is developing to try and provide missile defense for the United States. And so a large part of that will be done in the space environment. So there's a missile launch in an enemy country that's coming towards us that has to be detected first. That will take place in space. Then it has to be classified as what it is, and then potentially intercepted right now, aspirationally, before it even gets into orbit. So that all is in the space domain for where those effects have to occur.
Wow. Napoleon would be jealous. Say I hated people with Alzheimer's. Okay, I think they suck.
Okay.
I don't actually believe this, but I have
That's
to
good.
pick a vulnerable group for this example. I hate people with Alzheimer's, so I'm like, all right, everybody who's genetically predisposed to get Alzheimer's, I'm going to target them and trigger early onset symptoms. So everyone's just walking around extremely confused in this population of people that I don't like, you know? Is that possible?
I don't know that it's possible right now, but you know, technology is developing. Maybe someday. Yeah, let's hope that doesn't happen.
I know a lot of you guys are thinking World War III sounds kind of fun. I mean, let's get dressed up and go, you know, slay the town, mama. But in real life, it would be a huge downer. I mean, it would just suck. The point is, sure, it's all fun and games to tell people, I have a terminal illness as a joke, so that everyone feels bad for you and gives you free stuff. But it's another thing entirely to actually have a terminal illness. I mean, personally, I'd rather die than be terminally ill. So.
Okay, so let's talk about the geopolitics of it all, if you will. First, the Middle East.
The Middle East is complicated. I guess if I had to summarize it briefly, I would say that there are 2.5 big powers in the Middle East. One is Israel, one is Iran, and the other half is Saudi Arabia. Iran feels threatened by Israel because Israel has nuclear weapons and is seriously backed by the most powerful state in the system, which is the United States.
I will fuck you, all right? I will enter you.
Israel is afraid of Iran because Iran is a sponsor of various terrorist organizations. That's how they conduct their foreign policy. They have various militant groups throughout the Middle East that they pump money into that do Iran's dirty bidding.
She's the queen bee, the star. Those other two are just her little workers.
And so Israel in the past has been threatened by these various groups, and they believe that if Iran gets a nuclear weapon, which Iran has been trying to do, that there's a good likelihood that Iran will maybe give that technology to one of these militant groups, which could in turn trigger some sort of a nuclear attack on Israel. So Israel views this as an existential threat, and that's a perfect recipe for war.
Okay, India and Pakistan.
India and Pakistan is an interesting one because it's actually the one that could probably escalate into a major war if we're not careful. Because unlike many of these other conflicts, both of these countries are nuclear powers. They both have nukes, and they really, really dislike one another. And they share a border, so they're competing for the same region. The root of the conflict is disputed territory in the north, the Kashmir area. Both of those countries claim parts of the Kashmir region, and there's really no resolution in sight. It's very difficult to see how these two great powers agree to resolve that dispute. That one, if there's a miscalculation, could escalate rapidly. That being said, I don't think that particular conflict would trigger World War III because I don't see Russia or China or the United States being that eager to commit their entire military to support one or the other side.
So for World War III to happen, really the major global powers need to get involved in some capacity, it seems. So, and Nick says that that's the US, China, and Russia, which brings us to our next conflict.
In Russia and Ukraine, primarily Russia is concerned about the expansion of the United States and the West, generally speaking, including Europe. And they would like to maintain some sort of a buffer zone like they enjoyed during the Soviet Union. Now that's becoming harder and harder to do, primarily because after the collapse of the Soviet Union, a lot of these countries that were friends with Russia have become friends with America. And Ukraine was essentially trying to do the same thing. Russia didn't like it. They also wanted Crimea, which was historically Russian, but also gave Putin access to the Black Sea. Russia is a relatively cold country. They don't have a lot of warm water access. Crimea gave them that access, or at least enhanced it significantly. And Ukraine, of course, is fighting for survival. They're a sovereign country. They're independent. And here's this great power attacking them. So they have no choice but to fight.
There's a lot of talk from world leaders that, when quoted, sounds more like it's from Love Island than Geopolitics. So we're going to do a little game. I'm going to say a quote, and you're going to guess. Is it from Love Island, or is it from a world leader? I'm not a woman, so I don't have bad days. I have as much chance becoming prime minister as being decapitated by a frisbee. What even is a nipple? 99% of the time, I'm right about what I'm thinking. Daddy, you're my daddy. Whatever you've heard about me, times it by 1,000,000. I just start kissing them, it's like a magnet. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. So obviously there's a lot of performativity, there's a lot of muscling up, there's a lot of on action. But who is willing to actually go to war for whom? It's hard to say. Okay, China and Taiwan.
Simmering conflict, I would say. I'm not really sure that actually will ever grow into a full-out war because the United States has been preparing to defend Taiwan rigorously. And again, China pays attention to that. That can be a deterrent in and of itself. But Taiwan is a small island and it includes a lot of Chinese people who do not necessarily share the communist ideology of the mainland China. And so for China, the split happened after the Chinese Civil War. Those who opposed the Communist Party, they fled, and then they fled to Taiwan. And so ever since then, you kind of had two Chinas. You had the big China and the small China.
Do you personally consider Taiwan a part of China?
No. I think Taiwan is, by this point, a sovereign state. But from the point of view of Beijing, the communist China has been desperate to kind of reunify the country and bring Taiwan under its control. Taiwan is also strategically positioned. There's a lot of competition over the seas there around Taiwan. And so China wants to control Taiwan to control a lot of the trade routes that flow in that area. Taiwan also produces microchips, semiconductors, and in the modern day and age, that's actually a really important strategic asset. And so China also is eyeing that as well. But regardless of resources, Taiwan would still be a target for China.
Over 90% of the world's most advanced chips are made in Taiwan. So the stakes of having access to Taiwan for both the US and China, and really any other country in the world, are higher than ever. This technology is crucial to the AI race. And if you're like, I don't give a fuck about AI, that's fine. Let's just say this. The thing about AI is the more advanced it gets, the smaller the cost of knowledge becomes. So say you're a country that wants to develop the most advanced weapon in the world. And instead of hiring thousands of engineers to work on this for years and years and years, you just type into an AI and say,
Fix me up. Let's go.
And I'm sorry to the people of Lockheed and Northrop and my nephew who yearns to work in the military-industrial complex and already refuses to speak in anything but acronyms. But it's likely that AI will surpass our abilities. Anyway, America, China, and Russia are a lot like John Cena.
I will fuck you, all right? I will enter you.
You're gonna enter me? You're not about that life, champ. I can see it.
Oh, I am about that life. No. I will get crazy up in here. You like movies? We'll make a movie starring my fist in your dick hole.
What the fuck is wrong with this dude?
He wants you.
But when push comes to shove, will China actually invade Taiwan? Will America actually go to war in defense of Taiwan? Will John Cena actually go fuck that guy in the ass? Are they going home together tonight? We don't know. Okay? But what we do know is that if anal sex occurs, it could be enough to trigger World War III. So close your buttholes, Taiwan. I'm sorry, that's offensive.
So I guess given everything we've learned, it's time to pop the question. How scared should we be? Is World War III here? Is it coming?
Well, if it is coming, it's not coming anytime soon. But there are two perspectives on this, actually. The first is that World War III, like I just said, is not here, and it will not be here for a long time. The reason for that is because a lot of major powers need political capital domestically to launch a massive military campaign. So there's some exceptions with countries like North Korea because they don't really have a system of checks and balances to keep their leaders accountable for their actions. But for most major powers, even China needs to have strong political capital in order to execute a major military campaign. Looking at the politics of it, I just don't see how a war a major war of that scale is likely unless there is a miscalculation. If there is an error of some sort, and if it's not caught, that could actually trigger a World War III. But, that would happen unintentionally, but it could have serious consequences. So that's one perspective. The second perspective is that World War III is already here. It's World War III light, because when we take a look at a lot of these conflicts, such as Ukraine, for instance, we see North Korea is involved. They're sending their military troops as cannon fodder to the front lines in Ukraine to help Russia capture territory. It also helps North Korea kind of learn from conflict because they've been out of the game for a little bit. And North Korea doesn't really do anything without China's permission, so China's involved at least on a grand strategic level. Iran is involved in that conflict too, because Russia is purchasing military equipment from Iran because they're running out, so they need Iran's help. And then, of course, Ukraine is getting assistance from the entire, Western world, United States, NATO countries. Many of them have bilateral defense agreements and all sorts of other defense arrangements. So that, in a way, is a world conflict, even though it's being fought on a smaller proxy level. The same applies to the ongoing conflict between Israel and Iran. Again, Not necessarily World War III in a traditional sense, where everybody's fighting each other with boots on the ground, but perhaps World War III like.
My last question for you is, do you think someone like me could solve war?
Well, I think a lot of smart people have been trying to solve war for a long time. I think we all should be trying to see what we can do to prevent conflict from happening. So
Exactly.
say, keep going.
Awesome. Thank you so much.